game-changing discussions on the big ideas that shape our thinking. This is One-to-One. Previously on One-to-One.
The political actors have the greatest influence. They are the ones who, they are in the driver's seat.
Is that partly because the courts, the legal system has abdicated that space?
Yeah, I think nature abhors a vacuum, right? So as far as the courts have not stepped up to the role, definitely.
So Olumide Akpata, you have spent years around elite decision-making circles. I'd like to ask a question about the Nigerian elite. Does the Nigerian elite actually believe in institution building? Or in other words, do we, because you and I are part of this intelligentsia, this elite, are we not? Do we prefer to benefit from the dysfunction? And before you answer, I mean, by elite, I mean those who have a disproportionate influence on how systems function, those who have the capacity to shape national outcomes. Do we prefer to benefit from the dysfunction that exists, or do we actually believe in institution building?
I would say that we believe in institution building, but we have thrown our hands up in despair because if you remember one of the questions you asked earlier, when I was responding to your question about professional competence alone not being enough, right? I think we in the main, we want to build institutions, but we have thrown our hands up in despair because we are not in, we have been kicked out of the rooms, or we are not in the rooms where the decisions and the policies will be made to ensure that our institutions are strengthened. We don't have that ability, or we have lost that ability to be part of that process. And so what we've done is to just make do with what we find. And for immediate selfish reasons, we play along.
But really, the sheer definition of the elite is that it has agency. Actually, so how can we really say we've been kicked out of the room? We are the custodians of power, of capital, of administration, of government in this country.
Well, maybe I was bifurcating.
I think you are.
I was bifurcating the definition of elite. There is the elite, right, who have become, who control the political space. I was, in my mind, separating those who control the political space, who run government, because I find it difficult to put all of us in the same basket at the moment. You may not agree with me, but when you mentioned elite, I was thinking more in terms of those who are the professionals. I was thinking of those who are who run the economy, who run the businesses, who run the different sectors of our economy. So I bifurcated.
Yes, yes.
And I was thinking, okay, that group of people
still have influence. They still have the capacity to act, to transform society. Many of whom are still custodians of capital. You've been in the corporate world.
Yes.
And you're now in politics, but we'll come back to that later.
Yes. But I think when we talk about the whether or not building of institutions,
yes,
you understand, whether or not we want to build institutions,
sure.
That's why I made that distinction. Because I'm taking myself as an example. I'm thinking of friends of mine who are captains of industry. I'm thinking of the professionals. I'm thinking of the bankers. I think they would prefer a system that is predictable. They would prefer that our institutions are strengthened and built up. But unfortunately, they're not in that, they don't have the ability to make those decisions. But there's a word you used just now, which I agree with. They have influence, but they have not been able to apply their influence enough to change the outcomes, to change our situation today. It would have been easy for me to just quickly jump and say, oh yes, we are not interested in institution building, but I don't think so. I think we are, but I think we have lost the ability to influence such an outcome. But so talks, maybe if we don't bifurcate,
Yes.
and we take all elite,
Yes.
or all members of that class as one class, I still think we have just decided to go with the flow. Even those of us in the political class. I refuse to agree that the majority of those who make up that elite class would rather not have strong institutions. No, I just think it's just the ability, the strength of character to fight for what you want.
Sure.
I think it's absent. Yeah. I would say that they will just play the game with the cards that they're dealt, and they're not doing enough or unable to do more.
Yeah, I think you really mean we, don't you? Not they. We are a part of this elite, whether or not you bifurcate. We are a part of the intelligentsia. But we'll pause there.
No. I want. You see, I'm ruminating.
Yes.
I'm thinking, when you say we,
Yes.
Take me, for example, Olumide Akpata.
Yes, let's talk about Olumide Akpata.
You mentioned, you said you wondered why I resigned from my firm. It's for the very reason, for these reasons that you adduce or you refer to, that I left my comfort zone to say, we need to fix things. So I delved into politics because I want to be part of the process of building up our country, building up institutions, because I'm thoroughly dissatisfied with the state of play. So I struggle. That's why when you say we,
yes,
I'm saying there are some of us who see the need to step out
and are wholly untainted. That's a bit artificial, isn't it? We have no responsibility at all. We never bypass the strengthening of institutions. We never use our ability, to negotiate and win outcomes for ourselves in our own interest rather than in the collective interest of the state.
Some of us, yes.
Yeah.
So
even the intellectual elite that we're keen to speak of and protect.
Some of us are ready to step into that space.
Sure.
Where we say, this is not working. We need to build systems. We need to build something that's more sustainable. You need to plant a tree or trees, the shades of which you may never be able to sit under, right? So some of us are willing to do that. Of course. Not many, but some of us, which is why I hesitate to tie everybody with the same brush and say, oh, we're benefiting from the system that's not working, or no. I think that quite a number of us are ready to move into that space to say, let's fix this. We may not benefit from the effort, but let's fix this, because we recognize that this is not going to work. If the institutions are not strengthened, we will be the worse off for it.
So we're really talking about the asymmetrical exercise of power, and it's in the interest of some, perhaps a significant section of the elite, to perpetuate that asymmetrical exercise of power. The irony, though, is that you don't get society, you don't build institutions until you bind that power to systems. That's the truth. So moving on. Proceed carefully here, Tokes. In 2023, you resigned your practice and crossed a certain Rubicon, didn't you? You entered into politics. Can I ask, why did you choose to go into politics directly at that stage rather than remaining an influential external voice?
Just referring again to the conversation you and I have had so far. External voices are not as influential, or the influence that we wield has not really done much to impact on the space, on our political space. And so I felt I said to myself, still young enough energy to move into the political space and join the few who I see who want to turn things around to, I'm avoiding cliches now, but to build institutions, to build a more sustainable system that can now be the foundation upon which a greater Nigeria can emerge. So I felt that sitting down in the comfort of my office, my office at the firm, I would not be able to achieve this. You know, I would not be able to achieve this. And I think I'm still quite convinced that was the right conclusion to arrive at that time. Mm-hmm. So I see talks. I look at. I'm thoroughly dissatisfied with the way our country, the shape of things in our country at the moment. And I mean, you've alluded to some of these things in the course of our conversation. You know, the absence of institutions, how does the average Nigerian view the judicial system, etc., etc., etc. And so I said, okay, why don't I take the plunge? I see a couple of people out there who I know of like mind. Can we all, some of us, move in that direction and go in and increase the number of those of us who think in this way within the political space, and probably show by example how we think it should be done. For me, that was it.
So having crossed that Rubicon, what surprised you most about participation in active politics, therefore?
That the rot was as deep as it was, much more deeper than I thought. That was quite a bit of a shock.
Was that a bit naive of you?
Well, no, I don't think so. I mean, you can't know it all from one side of the fence. You know what I mean? There will always be surprises. So what surprised me most? The rot. Another thing that surprised me was the fact that the people who I think I didn't recognize or didn't realize how jaded the people had become, how much they had given up. I know that the people are unhappy with the electoral process and the fact that they don't think that their votes count. I know that they are unhappy with the judicial process. I knew that even before I went into politics. But when I got into that space and in the course of campaigning, you engage, I think there was a sense of despair I felt because if the people who you say you want to work for or you want to change things for have more or less given up, at least the majority of them, it's going to be very difficult. It becomes a hard sell.
So did this engagement in politics make you more realistic or more cynical?
I have battled cynicism. I've tried very hard not to allow that set in because that's a slippery slope, you know what I mean? I'm not cynical, but I am mindful of the fact that the people who are a key component to, or a key factor in the process are not quite on the same page, or they're not quite where we need them to be.
Has that frustrated you?
I'm not frustrated, not yet, Tokes. I'm not, but it has opened my eyes to the fact that there's quite a lot that needs to be done with regard to getting the people on side. And if we don't do enough of that, I think it will be problematic.
So Lou, let's talk about you in politics. You've changed political parties twice in the last 2-3 months. Not just you, of course. Others have done the same. It's quite a trend, isn't it? But I'm going to ask you to explain. But I'd like to frame this by sharing a personal example. Okay. Now, my earliest political memory is of my father, then a UPN senator, crossing the floor of the House, going to NPN, that's about 81, 82, because he disagreed with his own party on educational policy. So I get it. I understand cross-carpeting, but this isn't exactly cross-carpeting, is it? It's crisscrossing, flip-flopping, perhaps. It begs the question, where does that leave political ideology? And I do need to ask, therefore, Olumide Akpata, what is your politics?
Okay, so I think this aspect of politics in Nigeria is also one thing that has shocked me, or has I don't know if the word is shock, or has disillusioned me, or has caused me disillusionment, because political parties appear to be just simply vehicles, and ideology seems to be lacking. What is my politics? I mentioned earlier, I'm pro-people. I want to engender or put in place government that will work purely for the people, and that the experience of the Nigerian citizen of Nigeria should be one that that keeps them, that puts on the table all that is required to live a quality life. I joined the Labour Party when I forayed into politics. I joined because, for me, from where I stood, just viewing the parties, the Labour Party, which had the logo of the father, mother, and the child, Papa, Mama, Pikin, its ideals seemed closest to what I believed in. You know what I mean? That is about the people, right? And I went there. The Labour Party was bedeviled from get-go with a lot of issues that made it impossible for the party to move forward. I ran for governor on that platform, but even after my elections, even while I was running, I was encountering serious difficulties because of the internal wranglings within the party. It made it very difficult to make progress. It made it extremely difficult, because when I got into the party, I had no idea that things were that bad in terms of the factions, in terms of the infighting and all of that. But I stayed on. I ran on the platform of the party. And then thereafter, the next bus stop was for 2027, the push towards 2027, and how to ensure that the party is able to field a candidate for 2027 elections. It became clear that would be extremely difficult because of all the issues, the court cases, and all of that. And unfortunately, independent candidacy doesn't exist under our constitution. And we were working with our presidential candidate of 2023, working to ensure that he emerges just again as the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, but that wasn't working. So on the 31st of December, he moved to the ADC. And it was necessary for some of us who were working with him to move with him, because there was no way we could help to actualize his move towards getting the presidential ticket of the party from the outside. So when I joined the ADC, I made it clear that this move to the ADC was as a result of the legal issues at the Labour Party that made it possible for the party to make progress, and because of what the fact that Obi himself had moved to ADC. And in recent times, the ADC has also fallen on should I say, or has become the subject of seemingly intractable legal problems. And so it was necessary for Obi to move again to the NDC, right? it's quite depressing. You know what I mean? I agree with you that it is not. It is sad that this is what it has been reduced to. That you have to now search for a vehicle. I'm referring to Obi now. That he has to search for a vehicle to push forward his ambition to become presidential candidate. So I can understand why it would be necessary to move to the NDC. You understand? So for me, I can get it, but it still doesn't make it. It still doesn't make it. Doesn't make it palatable. I can recognize anybody who I can understand why anybody will say this moving around is it's quite saddening. I think.
Yeah.
So this is what our politics has become.
So it's quite fortunate in this conversation that we're not speaking about Peter Obi, we're speaking about Olumide Akpata.
Yes.
And the fact is, as we said earlier, you have moved political parties twice in the last 2 or 3 months. There may well be an explanation, perhaps even a good reason for that, but I'd like to bring us back to, and I'm glad you mentioned the Labour Party. Historically, Labour movements have often been influenced by socialist ideals. And you started out political life in the Labour Party. You're not there now. You've gone to great lengths to describe the difficulties the Labour Party has had. But back to my question, what does this say about the politics of ideology? Is this an indication of your political beliefs? And I will ask again the pointed question, Olumide Akpata, what is your politics, therefore? You'll understand why I'm asking.
I totally get it. As a fairly recent entrant into the space, what I find is that the parties are not big on ideology. So let me answer your question, last question first, which I thought I had attempted to answer before now. What is my ideology, or what's my politics? Just like you mentioned, the Labour Party in England, right?
Or most places.
Or Labour Party in most places,
yeah.
right? I ascribe to the ideology that those parties espouse, which is that essentially I'm breaking it down to say it is about making systems work for the people, making the country work for the people, as simply as I can put it. So I benefited from free education, right? In primary school, and I know the effect that had on the lives of many. I am appalled by the state of our educational system today. I'm appalled by the number of out-of-school children today, right? And I will be all for a situation where government would work towards subsidizing education for the people of this country. Because I think human capital development is the first thing that any government should work on. I'm the child of a doctor. I'm speaking to a doctor right now. I'm appalled by the state of our health system in Nigeria today. These are things that affect the lives of our people on a day-to-day basis. Whatever government would need to do to bring about healthcare to the people. I recognize the issue of resources, I recognize cost, but in terms of determining where to apply scarce resources, these are the things that I would look at. The NHS in England was set up in 1948 or thereabout, right? And I wonder why we are still not working towards ensuring that healthcare, I think health is a human right, healthcare is accessible, quality healthcare is accessible by all Nigerians.
So Olumide, we've talked about the responsibility of the elite of this country. I have probed extensively your frustrations in politics. Glad to hear that you're still not frustrated by the process. What does this cost you psychologically so far? It's been 5 years.
Psychologically, I think, I don't know whether it's about ambition, whether it's about ambition or just the fact that I have been pained, or psychologically I have suffered because I have come to confront a side of Nigeria, a side of things that I really I had not countenanced before.
How's all that affected you, though?
It has affected me.
In what way?
In the sense that you get a sinking feeling that you are fighting a losing battle. So you are the doctor.
Not in this context.
Not in this context, but you can understand it almost gets you to the point of hopelessness. And hopelessness is not a good thing.
Yes.
Because for the Nigerian project, because you asked the question ambitious. I want to restrict it. Ambitious persons. I was hoping for a better Nigeria. Yes. I am hoping for a better Nigeria. I am working towards how to improve this space. But you have to struggle every day not to think that it's not doable. That affects me. It's a major struggle.
So, Olumide, I'm going to attempt to draw together much of what we've discussed in this conversation and many of the descriptions that you have used here. Now, Nigeria itself is a study, you use the word project, in democratic coexistence, nationhood, institutional development, and of course, the holding together of an extremely complex state, isn't it? Now, after everything you've seen up close, what still gives you hope that this great country, Nigeria, can hold together?
What gives me hope is the fact that there are still some who are aspiring towards this higher ideal that we are looking for. There's still a few of us out there, a few people out there. That gives me hope. Also, what gives me hope is that there's the divine, or should I say, there's the God factor. That also gives me hope that the Almighty still intervenes in the affairs of men, and that as long as there are still those out there who want to work towards the realization or the emergence of a Nigeria that will be good for all, I think the opportunity will present itself for that to happen, for those persons to galvanize together, to aggregate together, and then make it happen. So I still allow me that indulgence of leaning on my faith. Leaning on my faith to say we will not be abandoned as a country, and that something will give and we will be able to course correct. I don't think it's a totally hopeless situation. It's about rebuilding, or at least strengthening or reinforcing our foundations so that we can continue the task of nation building. I don't think it's... I wake up and I still... There are many days when I say, it's doable, it's doable. And again, I repeat, there are people out there, many people out there who want to see this happen and who want to work towards it happening. And there's a God out there who can, help to make it happen too.
Absolutely. Olumide Akpata, thank you for joining us on One-to-One.
Thank you, Dos. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. A pleasure.